I did my individual presentation on the play Palace of the End. Swivel chair. My favorite line from the play is from Dr. David Kelly. Can you imagine knowing that a man is torturing a child in your basement and just going on with your life? Knowing it is happening right under your feet as you wait for the kettle to boil, as you tuck your own children in bed, as you work in the garden, the dim light is always there, the muffled sound of her screaming, you pretend yourself. It's the crows on the line, but in your belly you know it is her agony. He is cutting off her fingers one by one, pulling out her eyes, her teeth, unimaginable torture, and this is something you know for certain. Others may guess at it. Many deny it, but you know it for certain, and you don't tell anyone because you might lose something if you do. So that was said by Dr. David Kelly in the second part of the play. I guess for the major themes, it really delves into the second part. Each part is a different theme. The first is Americans' treatment of the Iraqis in the Abu Ghraib prison. The second is Dr. David Kelly's knowledge of the WMD farce and how it pretty much was ulterior motives to going into Iraq because the WMDs were not there. And then also just from a woman, Daffodil, giving her recount of life under Saddam Hussein. So for this one, I guess the metaphor is the girl in the basement screaming is his knowledge of pretty much the WMD, and he knows it's not actually happening, and there's people suffering. Oh, sorry, this was 44% through the play because mine does not have page numbers, and it's his knowledge, like it's the guilt's weighing on him. He knows that this is happening. He's protecting his own skin by not talking about it. My favorite stage moment was also from Dr. David Kelly. So there wasn't a lot of movement, but it's pretty much a person standing there and then just giving a monologue. For him, it was so he sits against a tree, his pant leg is pushed up, and there's a slash at his wrist, but not much blood. There's a little blood in his knee. His glasses are beside him on one side, and his watch on the other. There's a bottle of water beside him and an empty bottle of pills, and that is 34% of the way through. And so she's on death's door, and it really gives an impact onto what he's saying because this is his last words before death. This is the final thing he wants to get out. And it pretty much talks about like his feelings about the whole matter. And so for my favorite character, once again 3 times in a row, that's Dr. David Kelly. His appearance, you can look him up. He's in my visual response. He's a 59-year-old man who looks a little old for his age. Maybe slightly overweight, glasses, thin hair. His movement, I think the fact that he has no movement, he's just there on his death's door, sitting there, knowing he's going to die in the morning, or by the morning at least. It really gives impact, once again, to the fact that this is the last thing he has to get out. His objective is to let the truth be known, and his motivation is his guilt. The part I had as my favorite lines, and I think it goes to show that he's, with the metaphor of a child in your basement being tortured, to the guilt he feels, it's pretty strong. I think that's a pretty good motivation. I feel like most people, if they had that weighing on them, would feel motivated to get the truth out. Wants to drive that point even further home, 55% of the way through. He says, "To hell with vows of secrecy, professional confidentiality. To hell with my pension. To hell with my life as I know it. The truth must out." And then he starts yelling pretty much about truth and his need to get it out. So for the world of the play, it's pretty much just, there's 3 sections. First you have the interview in America with Lindy England, the soldier who's known for famously giving a lot of thumbs up and photos of like in front of naked and I guess psychologically terrorized Iraqi prisoners, many who did not even need to be there. You can look her up; she's pretty easy to find. Then it goes on to the pretty much the hill, the walking path where Dr. David Kelly is dying in England, and then it goes pretty much to an overview of I guess Iraq from Daffodil as she's a ghost. She died in 1980 from an American bomb. I think that the transitioning from it goes with life, death's door, or like in between life and death, and then death. I think that's just kind of a nice way to flow with it, and just shows like pretty much emphasis on how awful this whole situation is, how it's represented as dying for many people. And I guess for the relationship with the audience, they are talking directly to the audience. They're not talking to other characters. They're pretty much telling the audience exactly what they want to say and what they think the audience should hear. And for my visual response, here's this. So pretty much I have the three things section off, but it's backwards because of the recording. So this is a Iraqi prisoner in Abu Ghraib who was told if they fell off this box, these wires would electrocute them, or electrocute him, and he would die. Now, obviously, that's extreme torture, psychological torture. That's illegal. Abu Ghraib, that's the prison where it all happened. This is Dr. David Kelly 2 days before he killed himself. He was at a public hearing. This is just a stock image of a WMD dossier just to show like pretty much like what he was all about, like thinking and what was weighing on his mind. And we have Saddam Hussein, some of his regime's actual torture methods, and then one of his palaces, because the tortures were told to have happened in one of the palaces, the Palace of the End. I couldn't nail down which one it was, but there were a lot of palaces he had all around Iraq, very extravagant. And then up here I have at the top a bunch of the different tabs that I had for I guess like as I read, I looked up a lot of things. I didn't really know too much about the Iraq conflict, things leading up and after it, and so whenever something was mentioned in the play that seemed that was historically accurate, I would look it up. So I looked up read about David Kelly, Abu Ghraib, American soldiers who had killed the one family in the bookstore, and that was one of the big motivation things for David Kelly was one of his good friends, Jalal, had a family and a nice bookstore in Baghdad, was selling lots of books, but then some American soldiers came in and raped his daughter and killed his family before setting fire to the entire bookstore, and then claiming insurgents did it. Yeah. Then I guess I even looked up smaller things like Mullah, which was mentioned in the last portion. It's just pretty much like a person well versed in Islamic teachings. That like Iraq and the weapons, like WMD history and how there weren't any and all that controversy. The November 1963 coup that brought Saddam's party into power, Saddam's party, and just one of the palaces where these things were allegedly happening. One last time. So for my 3 questions, my first question to the audience, if anybody who's not in my class stumbles upon this one's for you. A little bonus that you might not have saw coming. So my first question is, in the third part, I personally felt like it was hard to, I guess, tack down when in time it was until the very end. Do you think the late reveal that Daffodil was dead, do you think it was impactful and helped with the story, or just made it confusing? The second one was, what are your thoughts on all of the historical accuracy? Um, did the historical accuracy promote or take away from the play? And one, like, the second part to that one question is, with the first two being historically accurate, and kind of giving a good detail of what the person did and what they went through, versus Daffodil, the last one. She was, yes, like the husband of the communist party leader, and what are the thoughts on pretty much like less historical accuracy in the third one, or at least maybe not historical accuracy, but for sure what cut and dry did happen? And so, what is the thought on the inclusion of a less verifiable source of the third one? And then for my final question, in a part in the play, early on with the first section, it brings into the morality and pretty much the justification for doing awful things to people. So it was by Lindy England. She says, this is 7% into it. Sorry for no page numbers, but tell me how much you care about them Iraqi men when they're sawing the head off of one of your boys. Tell me fucking that. So, do you think that's a proper justification for the way that the American soldiers treated the Iraqi prisoners in Abu Ghraib? Leave answers in the comments. How about that? I'll even ask for that, not just self-reflection. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed reading the play as much as I did, because I thought it was very interesting and informative.